Hello and welcome to another episode of Transformative Principal Podcast. This is Mike Caldwell, your host. And joining me today is Derek Cantrell. Derek, welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on the Transformative Principal.
Yeah, well, you have been a transformative principal. You are a transformative principal, and I'm excited to jump into your journey and hear about, your transition to working with two different schools and consolidating into one. That sounds like an unbelievable undertaking, and it sounds like you were able to navigate that with success. So we'll get to that, and I love that, and obviously, and get to your book as well, and lot for you to share. And so excited about the conversation. Derek, tell me a little bit about your background. I know you're in Virginia. Give me a little bit of your story. Where are you coming from?
From western part of Virginia, grew up in this community. Actually, went to school in the Allegheny County school system, which is the county that merged with the city school with the consolidation piece. So, grew up, played baseball, football, and different things, and went away. Graduated from Ferrum College, but also went and played baseball at Liberty University. Came out of school, came back and taught in Allegheny County and was a teacher and a coach, and then was the last principal at Covington High School, which was the city school for the final 7 years, and wrapping up the third year here at the consolidated high school. So had a little bit of value from kind of both perspectives. Covington High School was built in 1939, so a long, rich tradition in history and sports and academics and pride within that community. And Allegheny High School has been around since 1963, so long-standing school systems and definitely deep traditions and pride within each community in that part.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, what did you teach and coach?
I taught, started off as an elementary PE teacher and a baseball coach, and did that for a number of years, and then moved up to middle school, and then got the opportunity to be a high school principal. So went from the bottom up with that part of it, and definitely enjoyed the journey each way. It was always like, I don't know if middle school's for me, like that. Don't know if high school's for me, really, and would have a hard time, I think, going backwards as a principal once you've been in that high school setting with the athletics, clubs, and activities that happen. It's just really awesome to see the smiles and the things that kids are involved with, and kind of that final product as they go to graduate, and where they've come from walking down the hall. One cute story as a PE teacher in elementary school. I remember kids walking down the hall to lunch and being like, "Hey, Jim." I'm like, why do they keep calling me Jim? And they're going to gym later that day,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
became Jim instead of Mr. Cantrell with that. So that was cute that you get from that side of it. But definitely a cool journey. Had the opportunity to work for a variety of principals, which I think really helped grow me from being in multiple schools as elementary folk, and then moving to middle school and being at high schools as a coach. So that definitely was eye opening, and definitely helped with that part.
Yeah. Man, you gave me PTSD just now thinking about elementary PE. When I student taught a billion years ago, I was a PE, health, math, kind of those were all my credentials. And for my certification, I had to student teach in elementary as well as a secondary, either middle school or high school. And I did the secondary first and kind of felt really comfortable there. And I think I did 6 or 8 weeks in elementary PE, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. And it was, I was in my 20s before I had my own kids and everything like that. So I didn't understand the little creatures, and, you know, kids peeing their pants and crying and all the kind of stuff. It's just like, oh, I got to get back to the high school. I can't do this. Now I think I could, after having my own kids and kind of maturing. I like to say I've matured over the years and see things differently. But man, those were tough years or tough few weeks for me. So you've seen all the different levels, not necessarily as an administrator, right? Like,
Right.
yeah. Um, so that's an interesting perspective to have. And you've stuck it out kind of the majority of your career been in the high school.
Yeah. It's kind of, I think I taught for about 10 years, finishing my 10th year as a high school principal. So a little bit kind of at the halfway point of both of those. And one other cool thing with that elementary, my first substitute job was pre-K coming out of college, and it was actually for my mother. It was in a pre-K classroom. And I feel like if you're gonna make it, if you can make it through a pre-K day, you're gonna be okay because you give directions, and half the kids by the time you make it back to your desk are done, and the other half have their hands up. So you're having to figure it out on the fly at that point for the rest of the
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're going to get to your story, but you mentioned working for a lot of different leaders. I had the pleasure of working under several leaders as well. What resonates to you as you think about the people you had to work with as you were kind of growing into your own leadership and watching and learning from others? Like, what sticks out to you as something that you really, I don't know, really inspired you to either be a leader or kind of helped you become the leader you are today?
think that even before I got into programs and working towards my master's degree and all, there were several that saw potential in me doing this and put me in situations that I probably wouldn't have put myself in. Like, hey, you're gonna go help read, be a part of this reading club in second grade and run small group reading stations. You're gonna be the RTI chairperson and things. And I think it really helped to get into those different scenarios and grow and have some leadership roles along the way before even becoming going through your educational program. And once I got into that, our division did a good job of giving us the opportunity to like sub for principals when they were out. So sometimes I would get shot out into different schools for a week at a time at an elementary school, at a middle school, filling in as an assistant principal, and I also had the great opportunity one semester to finish out like the last 6 weeks in an elementary school to get to do observations and things before I became a high school principal with that. And that really helped get through that end of the year process because always the beginning of the year, end of the year is so fast and furious, and getting through those really help add to your toolbox and I think make you a better leader for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Something you said there, got me thinking. I never anticipated, or it was not on my, trajectory or goals to be a school principal until somebody that with my former first superintendent and my first principal both saw that in me or encouraged me to kind of pursue in that direction and also put me in leadership positions. It makes me curious, like, if we could survey all the school leaders across the country, how many of them kind of went into it because that was their plan from right out of college, that's where they wanted to go, versus how many of them, like you and I, somebody kind of opened that door or kind of created that spark, for good, bad, or ugly, and led us to the dark side, if you will, right? Like, I'm curious about those ratios of how many people. I would bet the vast majority of people have similar experiences where somebody kind of lit that fuse and nudged them in that direction. Wouldn't you say, or how do you
Yeah, I
see
would,
it?
I would, I would highly say that somebody saw something in someone. I mean, I kind of went through the same. You got there, and it's like, hey, I'll go through this program and give it a try. I don't know if I'll ever want to jump into being a principal, but as you get a master's degree in our area, it's a $3,000 stipend each year. So I mean, there is compensation for doing that and filling in, and that opportunity comes, and somebody believes in you and knows that you're a fit for that situation, it definitely makes you think and you jump into there and you're so glad that you did. But it definitely takes some people that see the good and the positivity of what you can do and push you along. And we all need that. And I think you're right that you would poll people. I bet you'd be 90% or more somebody pushed them along because I don't see people that really jump out of college. Hey, I'm going to be a high school or a principal at something because it's definitely a journey.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And for those leaders that are listening, we need more great leaders in education right now. And look around and find those people that you think are, you know, the young potential and encourage them. And I know a lot of people do, but sometimes it can be assumed that people have those ideas made up already, but sometimes it takes a little bit of a nudge to get those people going in that direction, and like you and I. And so for people that are listening, we need more leaders in this space. So encourage you to do that. Well, let's jump into your story.
Yeah.
You led something most school leaders will never experience. You merged two rival high schools into one. Um, what did the moment feel like walking into day one? And then we'll backtrack on kind of why you're merging in the first place. But what did that feel like when you arrived first day bringing these two schools together?
Day one of school, I'll start there. So you come back, it's the first day, it starts a little bit later because the logistics of getting furniture and items from multiple schools into one building to be ready for the 800 kids instead of 500 that were here before, with bringing those together. So we started a little bit later, and this is something that's been talked about in our community for over 40 years. It would always come up for a vote, the vote would get denied. Then it would be another 10 years or so, the same thing would happen. So even as a kid growing up, that experience, I lived that as we may be merging schools, and it always got voted down. And I really think that our community, just the pride and the values and the traditions, that fear of loss, and hearing that we are going to be able to do some things that keep those traditions along. So that helped along the way. But that first day, just are the bells going to ring? Are people going to show up? Are people going to get to class? Or are we going to work well together and build those relationships and not have knock down drag out fights, to be honest? And
Right, right, yeah.
how are we going to be proactive as a staff, and be visible? That was something we talked a lot about. And we had staff that, the first year that we had duty in the hall, and just being there to say hi and get to know people, and little things like that, being visible, paid dividends early on. But really just getting there, are people going to show up with the new gear and the new brand in class? And are we going to just see the Allegheny red hats with the A's and the Covington Cougars? And those different things were definitely the question mark in day one. And people showed up. We had our staff out on the front porch with like a cheer tunnel welcoming all the kids in, just to be very hospitable with that part. And just when the bell rang at the end of the day, I remember we sat down in here as a leadership team in this room, and it was 6:15, and because it took a little longer with buses, with all the logistics and things. And actually it was some of the activity buses showed up, and we thought it was another wave of buses coming. It was like, oh no, what's happened there? But to sit down and just be like, wow, we did something that's been 40 to 50 years in the making. We're through day one. We got 179 more to go, but hey, it was a positive day. Smiles on kids' faces. Our teachers were pumped, and it was really cool to see how packed the hallways were, the excitement, and all the fears that you think going into it kind of evaporate with
Yeah.
those relationships and the intentionality that we put before we walked into school day one.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. I mean, when I first read the story, and learned about this from you, I thought more about the students, but you also are merging, faculty and staff, and cultures, different schools and expectations, and uh, there's a lot that goes in there. So let's unwrap that a little bit and start from kind of when the decision was made. And was it on your shoulders to kind of navigate this? Was this because you had two different schools? How did that talk us through a little bit of the logistics on how
Okay.
this worked, and then we'll get into kind of your strategy on how you made this a positive experience.
All right. So honestly, in the fall, coming out of COVID, so I guess it would have been what, fall of 2020, when we returned to school. It was September, the first day of school. Our school board voted to consolidate schools, divisions. So that put a huge weight in
Now, was
Covington.
this based on declining enrollment and efficiencies and those types of things? That's what I would assume.
Yeah,
And you had one school that was in the 1930s, another one
yeah.
in the 1960s, and so you had facility probably advantages of consolidating as well. So I kind of see that. Keep going. Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, we had declining enrollment in both schools, and Allegheny years ago was a 3A high school. It had become a 2. Covington always had been a smaller single A with 8 through 12 as the high school. So the first day of school that year, our school boards voted to consolidate schools. So you come in, you get through the first day of school, you're excited, and then you have that dropped on you as a school community. And it takes a while to go through the process of just realizing that, at some point, Covington High School won't exist.
And
And
you were at Allegheny.
I was at Covington at that time.
You were at Covington, the
I was the
smaller school.
final principal at Covington in the city.
Okay.
So, you go that first day, and then that goes, and you have to kind of go through the process of grieving and how we're
Yeah.
going to make this work and lift your staff up, and also continue to service those kids that are going to be Covington High School graduates. And the process took a little bit of time. There was one more year after that we were still separated. Then the first year, the divisions merged. We kept the high school split. Then in 23-24 was the first year of the consolidated Allegheny High School. That is where, like, the Covington High School students came to Allegheny in that high school. The old Covington High School building became the middle school as part of the merger agreement between local governments. So that was a little bit. We had to figure out how we get furniture from 3 different buildings into the 2, so that we can have staffing and be ready for that. You also had staffing pieces that went from looking at what are people's first, second, third choices of where they would want to be. What does it look like if we give everybody the first? Do we have too many history teachers? If we do, then we make that decision on where they go to the middle school or a different building within that part. So the logistical pieces of staffing, furniture, setting up buildings to make sure you have enough space with that was definitely an initial challenge. And then I was hired in the
And that was all
fall.
before Chat GPT, so you actually had to think about that.
Yeah, a lot of thinking, a lot of
You didn't
brain.
have an AI agent to do it for you.
That's right. AI is the brainstorm partner now, is great. And
Yeah.
so I was hired in October 2022, about a little less than a year before the high school part. So then that planning became the high school piece. So there was a frame from the vote, the vote in 2020, the divisions consolidated 22-23. So there was a lot of planning on pay scales, how we're going to merge pay scales, benefits, what buildings, how they're going to be used, that the division did, but also involved principals at that time before the high school part. But a lot of work in that piece of the logistical part.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a lot. So you had to help your staff move from, this grief kind of experience, and maybe even resistance to ownership and pride, right? So what is that, set aside the logistics of all the things you talked about. Now you get to the human element side of change. What did that journey actually look like?
It definitely took some time, and there was, we had almost 2 years to finish Covington High School for that part, and as we got there and knew this was happening and this was where we're going to be, just the talk of how can we do this right for kids, and put our best foot forward and go into this open minded. We did some division sessions where we got together as secondary folks, and just, they called them mingle sessions. We got together just to talk, build relationships, do some activities. They fed us in a half a day in the afternoon. Then we had some times as we got closer where we came to Allegheny High School. We went to Covington High School and did scavenger hunts, and even the simple part of getting a department together. And once we knew what room people were going to be in, how's this room set up? Where are the outlets? How does printing work? And questions that teachers are going to have when they're moving rooms and things. But a lot of the work we did was just talking to people. What are you concerned about? What are you excited about? I mean, that's super simple, but if we can answer those concerns and highlight more of those things that they're excited about, good things happen. And a lot of listening took place to just, it's going to be okay. We're going to make this work. We're going to get there. And really getting the staff at Covington, I think, to know that we got to do it right for the kids that are graduating as the class of 2022,
Right.
and also be preparing for the next year, and in that, well, I guess 23, class of 23, preparing for that next year 23-24 school year as well. So there's a little bit of both happening throughout that time, but making sure that we listened, we valued people's input on staffing, room selections, department chairs, and all that, and just super intentional with communication and involving staff so that there was ownership.
When going through this, you shut down Covington, Allegheny is the other school. Did they just move into Allegheny? You kept all the mascot colors of Allegheny, or was this like a blend of something new?
It was blended. It was a process. We had a committee that worked on what the logo would be, what the mascot would be, the colors. We wanted to do something where, with going to Allegheny, the school was going to be Allegheny. So the mascot was the same mascot at Covington as the Cougar. So that kept a little bit of the tradition of both there with that.
So
Uh,
so Allegheny, the name remained, but the mascot from Covington
Covington,
moved
yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Ah,
It
okay.
was the Allegheny Mountaineers, the Covington Cougars, so it became the Allegheny Cougars. And we
Okay.
took some of
Could
both
What
school
about the
colors.
Allegheny Mountain Cougars? Couldn't you just
Yeah, double up on it. So we changed our colors to Navy and Carolina. Covington was navy, Allegheny was red, and Carolina blue. So we merged that together as well. We did create totally new mascots, which was fun, and came up with a cool A-Paul as kind of our main brand, something that looked really cool that could be there, and really focused on making sure the lockers were painted. The brand was on the school. When you walked into the school, the hope was feeling that you were coming into the Allegheny Cougars. It was a different Allegheny High School because we felt we owed that to everybody to make it fresh and new, even being in an existing building. And when you came down the road, we had signs out, flags, logos on the doorway, anything we could do to put the brand out and make sure that you knew where you were coming into and it felt different day one. And we thought that was super important. Throughout the summer, I remember going to like a car show and different things and giving out the logos to put on cars. Anytime we could give out a hat or a t-shirt, we did, because that was important to get that brand out. And then when we went to that first football game, people showed up wearing the colors, and the actual first play, first kickoff, we scored a touchdown on, which you couldn't write the script
Wow.
any better.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I like to do in the presentation that I do at some of the different things that we've gone and presented at, from why us to we. And that was our we excitement moment, that, we had our first football game. People showed up. They wore the right colors. We scored on the first play, and you get goosebumps still watching that.
Brings them all together right there, right?
Pretty well. We went 9-1 as a football team, so that really helped.
That helps a ton. Yeah. Feel like the school culture also oftentimes in the fall, or maybe more the climate, not the culture, is kind of dictated by how well the football team does sometimes. So going 9-1 in that first year, I'm sure made a big difference. Good stuff. So in a lot of ways, it sounds like you're opening a new school with a little bit of baggage kind of bring coming along, where you had to recognize and realize that people were coming from their existing schools, but in a lot of ways you kind of opening a brand new school.
Yeah, and we went when we did some student advisory things, some things that popped up talking to kids were something you wouldn't think of. It was like, we really feel that we're going to be a senior, and it feels like we're going to be a freshman again.
Yeah.
So that was eye opening. And it's like, can we get in the school in the spring before the fall and do some tours and maybe do some shadowing? So we set up some things based upon talking to kids. We had a family night in the spring that Covington students could come down with their parents, walk the school in the evening. We had Allegheny leadership students here that walked them around, gave them a tour, answered questions. And then we had some of our leadership students come down and shadow for a day and come back, talk to the grade levels, and just open that communication up. So there were several things along talking to kids that they were concerned about that we tried to answer before we got in here too, and just make it as comfortable as we could, and really little things like putting our handprints on the wall that Allegheny did each year was, I mean, those are big things that kids expect to be able to do. So we had to even blend those traditions together the best that we could. And, what do we want to keep doing? What new do we want to do? And how do we honor the traditions and pride of both buildings? And that was a lot of work into that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sounds like it inspired you to write a book, Better Together, building one school, one culture, one community from two rivals. Is this a inspirational book? Is this a how-to book? A little bit of both? Is it leadership? Tell our audience, and I'm curious, like, tell us a little bit about this book.
So the hope is kind of a little bit of story and a little bit of a leadership playbook. So kind of quickly goes through the process of what happened to get to the point and how the vote went down, and then the work that we did as a leadership team pre-consolidation. And that goes from just the intentionality of communication, creating a culture and communication roadmap so that we ensured that we hit the right stakeholders along the way, to building that pride and just those daily things that we did before we opened school to just build those small wins to create momentum. And the second part of it is kind of some of the systems that we've put in place to recognize, acknowledge, and extend the good things that are happening in our school, so that we can make that positivity and recognition something that we're proud of, that we do consistently, and just keep uplifting our school community. So those are things that if you read the book, or you've came to a presentation or anything that we've done that we share, that we want you to have access to, that you can take, tweak, and adjust, and make it your own. And those go from things from creating a podcast at your school where you talk to kids, to a breakfast club of champions that we've put in place, to a Cougar Scholars Club, to kind of just up that recognition of our expectations of graduating and getting your SOLs, your standardized tests done, to a lot of different things of with culture, with our Cougar code of kind of just the all-in mentality of show up, be involved, be a part of our community. So the hope is you could take the story, what we did intentionally with the communication and value in people, then some of the systems and programs we've put in place, and then what we've learned by listening to these types of podcasts, going to conferences, and just being out there and being a continual learner. So that's kind of the hope in that, and give people some some different things that can really help them in their school setting, whether you're consolidating, going through any kind of major change. Different things that uplift people and recognize the good things definitely help the bang for your buck within your community.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like a real, intentional focus on kind of the intentional things that you did from a culture standpoint to really bring people together in, as one community, and build that community. So if I'm a school leader and maybe struggling in that area, or just want, another perspective on how to build a stronger positive culture, sounds like this Better Together book might be a good resource for them.
And it's definitely, it's something that you can read from start to finish. You can pick up in the middle if you're looking for systems and programs that can help you. It's not a difficult read. It's not super heavy on the process of consolidation or any of that, but I wanted to paint the story of what it was and what we were going through, and how the intentionality of involving people throughout the process pays dividends in the end. And we really focused on putting people first and hope and the good things will come academically and all the different avenues from that. Because when you get that buy-in and people feel valued and a part of the program and a part of this building, good things happen. They show up to work, they got smiles on their faces. And I always like to tell a story early on. I was walking down our second floor hallway and noticed that all of our teachers on that second floor were eating lunch together in the same room. And if you know high school folks, that's not the norm. They're out to their own usually, and that was math, science, special ed people. They still do it to this day. They invite us up for certain things. If somebody's having a birthday, they'll buy food and have a big cookout or something. And that wasn't forced. That wasn't intentional. They did that on their own from people from two different, possibly three different buildings came in and made that happen. And it's super cool to sit back and see it happening on a daily basis still.
Right. Yeah. Well, how much of this, experience, having gone through it, shaped you as a leader? What are some things that, as you went into it, that you learned and grew as a leader? Obviously, you had to have some, the right mentality and attitude and skill set to even begin this process. But I would imagine through the process, you were shaped as much as you were shaping the culture, right? So can you talk a little bit about that and kind of how it affected you as a leader?
Yeah, I think that the first thing that comes to mind with that question is your leadership team and valuing those folks and really being a team. And it doesn't matter who's at the table or whose decision it is, and truly respect each other there. And I have a great group of people. We all are very focused on the same goals and being people oriented in that. And definitely everybody has their role, and we can come together, we can talk, and what decision we make, we walk out and we feel good about and still smile and laugh and enjoy each other's company with that. And our goal is to be visible, to be out and be seen, talk to kids, talk to teachers, get into classrooms as much as possible. But we know how high school is. Some days that doesn't go the way you want it to be. And, I heard somebody talk recently about like legacy and what do you want your legacy to be as a leader. And I think that when you leave, do you have people that have worked with you that want to carry on the same things, systems, and culture that you've created? And I think we've really, as a school, done a good job of building that as a place where people want to be, where it could have easily been a place where people didn't want to come with all the change in that part of it. And I really appreciate our leadership team, and they've been here the whole 3 years. We did have the unfortunate passing of one of our teammates in February last year.
Sorry to hear that.
Timothy Cochran passed away. Um, and he actually had a unique perspective of he went through a consolidation elsewhere as a principal and came from the outside. He wasn't here. One of the other APs, Charity Hale, was a student in Covington and became the AD here before consolidation. And our athletic director has been in Allegheny County, and he had done that and been a principal. And our other AP had been a principal before as well. So we got a really strong team of people and just get together, really well. We just got back from Orlando. Three of us went to present at the Make Innovative School Summit. So we do those things together as a team. So it's been a lot of fun in that journey and just continuing to build. And we have staff members that come with ideas. The Breakfast Club I mentioned, we were recognizing kids in a certain way, and the teacher was like, "Hey, we did something like this at our high school, and it was super impactful and really cool." And just recognizing the great things kids are doing with leadership, character, effort, and what the teachers do is they nominate a student on a nomination form. We pick 4 or 5 a month. We have a breakfast. We send a letter home. We call the parent, and this teacher nominated you for this part. The teacher comes that morning, reads that recognition, to the parent and the kid. They get a certificate and a sticker, costs $50 for breakfast, but the smiles on your staff member's face, your students, the parents, and just that interaction throughout that, just you leave with a smile on your face and you just uplift your people. And that's been super fun. We've done about 4 this year, and this is something we'll continue to do. And once we've had those events, you get 15 or 16 more nominations. So just creating that culture, that recognizing the good things that people are doing and just making that snowball. And it's been a lot of fun.
100%. Yeah, and that was a tradition that came over from Covington.
That was one that we started that was new.
Okay, it's a new one. Okay.
Just this year, actually, just in December, and we kept hitting snow days, so we kept having to fix days to find it. So we've done, I think, 3 or 4 of them so far. But that's something we started this year off of something somebody lived as an experience and tweaked it and adjusted it, and it's been very dynamic to call. I mean, we've had a kid crying here talking to them about their teacher nominating them, and then calling their parent and having that conversation. Hey, we want to invite you because XYZ. And I mean, it's been great.
Yeah, that means the world to parents and obviously to the kids as well. Well, in the time we have, let's do a little lightning round here.
Okay.
What's one word to describe your leadership style during this consolidation?
People. I
Yeah, I
think
sense that. You're very, very
put
people
people
oriented.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah, put people first.
yeah. And I imagine that doesn't stop after the consolidation. It seems like that's just in your leadership DNA, which I love. Good stuff. What was the hardest moment you faced?
Within this process, within this, I think that day that vote came down, and just how do you as a leader pick something up that you know is going to end and still make it meaningful for your kids and your staff, but also be able to paint it that we're going to be okay afterwards, and we can still do great things moving forwards. And
Yeah,
that took a lot of, it's a gut punch, and you have to sit back and think, how can we do this the right way? And it was definitely a unique challenge, and to make it through. And my daughter was actually at that school at the time. She was a part of that, and wouldn't be a graduate at the one school. And but it went really well, and super proud of her. And she's in college playing softball, and I got a 1 year break. My son's an 8th grader, and he'll be here next year. So I have a good stretch of, let's see, 5 plus 4, 10 years. I got 1 year off between kids at the high school. So
yeah. I know that could be tough when you're the high school principal of when your kids are in the school. What was the most rewarding moment?
I think getting through year one and getting to that end of the year faculty meeting and talking to our staff and being like, guys, we did something that's been talked about for 40 some years, round of applause, because we all in this room did that. And we made it work against all naysayers of people that, had always been anti doing something like this. We didn't listen to the noise with that part of it. We really came in and put kids and people first, and look at what we did, and being able to step back at the end and just seeing, we made it, we were successful, we did well academically, and super proud of each and every one of those people that made that happen, because they all contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one leadership habit that you'll never give up? Something that's just part of you.
I think something that's stuck, and I think I've done it, but it really hit in some of the ways I've heard it said, is just recognize, acknowledge, and extend the things that are happening as you go. When you see something good, celebrate it, acknowledge it, get it out there, and as you're walking around, little things matter. Talking to people, those interactions that you make on a daily basis that you might not think are important are, and even a thumbs up and a smile go a long ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I used to have 2 or 3 times a week, just an hour block. I called it MBWA, management by walking around, and it was just dedicated time. I just, try to pick out different times of the day where teachers on prep, pop in, say hello, walk through the halls, whatever. But yeah, those little micro moments, those micro conversations you can have, you know, add up and build those relationships. So good stuff. So before we close, tell us about where can people find your book? Is it out now? Is it published and ready to be read? Is it available on audio? Talk to us about that.
It's on Amazon. I actually did the self-publishing route for the first one here. So it's on Amazon. If you search Better Together and put my name, Derek Cantrell, it'll come up, and I can send you the link too if you want to put that in show notes or anything there. But it's online. If you have any, I also have at the end of the book an access to our presentation slides and our resources. So all the stuff that's there, you can tweak, you can implement and do. So anything that we can help from here, it's not a it's how can we help people and leaders. And if you have questions, reach out. Definitely be supportive of that. Anybody on our team will. And anything that comes along from those conversations, we're glad to help for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely put a link in the show notes for your access to your book. Um, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people start reaching out. That those that are trying to maybe going through something similar with consolidation, they can keep you very busy. So careful what you ask for.
Right.
Yeah. Well, last question, Derek. What does it mean to you to be a transformative principal?
I think that just being able to do the things that you do on a daily basis and value your people and put people first, I think can take you a long ways. And I really believe that culture piece success comes from that. So when you can do things with the lens of how does it affect kids, how does it affect our staff, and get input from those, great things are going to happen. And involve people, value people, great things will happen in your building. I really think that I've heard some data and research that businesses and schools that put people first and relationships first are much more successful. Those places that don't might make money for a while, but people are going to leave and that success is going to come down. So, for anybody out there with that part, anything you can think, how do you value your people?
Yeah, without a doubt. Derek, could spend another 45 minutes, hour or more talking to you, but I know you have a softball game to get to and a few hours to drive to get there, if I remember right. So, Derek, appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for what you do as a school leader. And for those that are listening, look up his book. Sounds like it's a winner, and I'll check it out myself. So, thanks again, Derek.
Appreciate it.